In the midst of these monumental changes that we're fighting for in healthcare, education, and energy, in spite of the god-awful shape the last administration left us in, we've already made progress on other aspects of our agenda. Had in previous Congresses we had done nothing else, it would have been considered a successful Congress thus far. Lilly Ledbetter, Fair Pay Act, securing pay for all. S-chip, converting and covering millions of additional children. Already withdrawing our combat forces from the major cities in Iraq on the way out. Coming home. After 3 decades of debate and bitter fight, regulating tobacco for the first time in American history. Finally, standing up to the credit card companies and saying, enough is enough is enough. And finally, passing legislation to broaden the definition of federal hate crimes to include attacks based on sexual orientation. How easy it is to forget. We fought on average 8 to 10 years to try to get every single one of those things done. And in the midst of the debacle we inherited, we've already accomplished it. Because of the problems are so large, it makes those accomplishments pale in comparison, Congressman Boswell, to what you and I know we have to do and will do. They asked me what the difference is being a senator and vice president. Beyond the plane and public housing? I love being a senator. I'm a Senate man. I was proud of it. But ladies and gentlemen, the best way I explain to the press who loves to dwell on, if you notice now, I'm the most powerful vice president in history since Cheney, hopefully without the downside. I don't know what that means. I'm not saying it. Something I never aspired to. But they asked me, describe, and I had to figure out how to say it by example. And the difference is, for all those years as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, I responded to Supreme Court nominees a president would send. I presided, according to the Senate historian, over more nominees than anyone in American history as a ranking member or chairman. But ladies and gentlemen, this time I was the only other guy to be able to interview all the nominees and recommend to the president someone he had already decided on. The first Hispanic American in the history of the United States of America to be in the Supreme Court. Sonia Sotomayor. Don't tell me we're not making progress. As we continue to make progress, there's one more thing, folks, that we have to focus on. We inherited something beyond an economy teetering on the brink of depression and a foreign policy teetering on the brink of irrelevancy. We inherited a governmental attitude based on the creed of the neocons, a philosophy that lacked faith in the integrity, determination, and capacity of hard-working middle-class Americans, a philosophy that put its trust in an out-of-touch elite, a philosophy that failed to recognize, as Yeats said, all's changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty has been born. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why we thought business as usual was wrong, and that's why they thought business as usual, incremental change, directives from the top, continue to be the answer. They fail to see how fundamentally America and the world had changed. Ladies and gentlemen, because I believe they fail to recognize that we cannot lead the 21st century and strengthen Americans at home by restoring the middle class without a fundamental change in our education policy, our health care policy, and our energy policy. Not incremental. I ask you, obviously partisan Democrats, but does anybody think, and I mean this sincerely, that it's possible to lead in the 21st century without a radical change? How can we remain 15th in the world in the percent of students we graduate from college and have any notion that we can lead the world? How can we possibly continue to spend at such a rate with increased cost of Medicare and Medicaid, a federal budget that now consumes 46% of every dollar spent on health care and rising exponentially? How can we ever gain control of our fiscal house without bending that curve as we're about to do? And ladies and gentlemen, and I'm being deadly earnest, how is it remotely possible to lead the world with an energy policy that is based on fossil fuels, by and large imported from the very people who fund the people who are killing our sons and daughters? Ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason why no president, particularly the last one, has sought these kinds of changes. Because they're incredible, powerful, vested interest. Not all bad, but vested interest. And seeing that these things not change. Because there will be winners, the American people, and there will be losers, some of the special interest. When Barack and I talked about change, we meant it. When he first asked me to consider being vetted and told me he needed an answer right away, I told him no, I did not want to be vice president. And he asked me whether I'd take some time and think about it. And we had multiple meetings. In the final meeting, there was only one question I wanted resolved. We sat in a hotel room in Minneapolis. I was smuggled in about 4 hours earlier, literally, because there were other people being considered. We sat on a couch in this giant suite, and I said, only have one question remains, Barack. And I mean this seriously. I said, I've heard you talk about change. I've been in this business a long time. I'm staying for only one reason, because I believe we need fundamental change. One question, do you mean it? And he reached across the couch and shook my hand and said, I do mean it. And I said, I'm in. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about it. It may disappoint you. We are not talking about incremental change. Not change in the margins, but significant change.